You did mention that you saw him at the doctor's surgery last week. No, definitely don't ask him about riding the motorbike on the weekend with his kids. Okay, I'll go through with you what you should ask him following his workplace injury when I'm there with you this afternoon. Okay, thank you. Talk to you then. Bye-bye. When someone's injured at work, it's not uncommon for some employers to panic and go into overdrive, thinking that they need to know everything about their injured worker's medical history, when in fact this is quite unreasonable, and I can assure you it won't be helpful with helping your injured worker get back to work. So what information should you obtain when one of your workers sustains a workplace injury? Firstly, you need to ensure that your injured worker has received the required and appropriate medical treatment. And as the employer, most of you have an obligation to pay a certain percentage of the initial medical expenses. So it's not unreasonable for you to ask your injured worker about their medical treatment and to also get a receipt from the medical treatment that they have received, because you need to forward this on to your agent as proof of payment. Secondly, it's reasonable and a requirement that you ask your injured worker or someone on their behalf to complete your register of injuries. All workplaces should have a register of injuries, and it's a detailed register with information about how the injury occurred, when, where, why, things like that. Exactly how the injury occurred, the mechanics of what happened, was there anyone else involved, was there any equipment involved, or was it a gradual injury that occurred over time? When? You need to know the exact date and time that the injury occurred. This is mainly for the agent to use when managing the claim, but it's still handy for you as the employer to have this information. Where was the location of the injury? If you have more than one site, you need to know which site the injury happened at. Was it in the office or was it on the factory floor? Was it inside or was it outside? Or was it in the car whilst the worker was travelling for work-related purposes? And why did the injury occur? Can you make any changes to your workplace to prevent this injury from happening again? Or can you provide further training to your employees? You also need to obtain and keep a copy of the worker injury claim form. This form will have a lot of detailed information about the injury, about the time, the location and the nature of the injury. It will also list any witnesses to the injury. It will also have detailed information about the worker's rate of pay and the hours worked. But it's also a good idea to check this with your pay office before forwarding on to your agent. You also can and should obtain a copy of the Certificate of Capacity. Certificate of Capacities contain a lot of helpful information about the diagnosis, the treatment plan, and the capacity. This can be used when sourcing suitable duties for your injured worker when planning for their return to work. If you need further information about your injured worker's injury and treatment, with their permission, you can speak to their treating health professionals. You can ask for information on the injury, treatment, and the prognosis regarding their work-related injury only. You cannot and should not ask the treating health practitioner why the injured worker came to see them last week, or what injuries they have sustained whilst riding their motorbike on the weekend. This information is probably in no way related to the claim, and if it is, it will all come out in the wash anyway. It's not up to you as the employer to investigate your injured worker's medical history. You can also request an extract of any independent medical examiner's reports. As the employer, you will not be given a full copy of the report unless the worker gives you the report themselves. These reports contain a lot of personal information that is handy for the treating health professionals to know, but is not necessary for you as the employer to know. You will only be given an extract from your agent if you request it. The extract will only contain parts of the report that provide information related to the compensable injury, the treatment, the capacity, and the return to work prognosis. It's also quite appropriate to ask your injured worker how you can help them. Can you offer to mow their lawns for them or trim their trees? Perhaps you can offer to drive them to their medical appointments. This information is perfectly okay and very reasonable to ask. It's also perfectly reasonable to ask them what they do. You probably know their job title, but do you know exactly what they do on a day-to-day basis? Do you know who they liaise with every day? Do you know exactly what time they start and what time they finish? For a lot of employers that employ a lot of people, it's not uncommon for them not to know exactly what each and every one of their employees do. So it's okay and perfectly reasonable to get a good understanding of what your injured worker does for you on a daily basis. It's probably not a bad idea to get to know what all of your workers do. Be proactive and get to know them. Don't just wait until injury occurs to get to know your workplace. I hope this video has been helpful in providing you with some information on what information you should or perhaps should not obtain when one of your workers sustains a workplace injury. If you need any further information or any help on managing your return to work, please go to my website www.returntoworkplus.com.au or get in touch with me via email tennille@returntoworkplus.com.au. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll speak to you all again next week. Bye.